Good evening. We are back to the Spirit's book. We're still on chapter 6. And today we're going to cover moral and intellectual faculties. Philip, you read for us?
Certainly.
Okay. So this chapter is Return to the Physical World. Okay. Deals with when we come back to the physical world, how we find ourselves and what happens to us as eternal spirits. Okay.
361. From where do moral qualities, both good and bad, originate? They belong to the incarnate spirit. The purer that spirit, the better the person. So a good person is the incarnation of a good spirit, and a vicious one is the incarnation of a bad spirit. Yes, but you should call them imperfect spirits. Otherwise, one might assume that there are spirits who will always be bad, what you call demons.
Okay, so we know that the moral and intellectual qualities belong to the spirit, not to the physical body. The spirit, when it comes into a new reincarnation, brings all the moral qualities and some of the intellectual abilities, not all of them, and we are going to see more on this chapter in the further questions, how this can be restricted and how does it work. So the more evolved the spirit, the better the individual, the human being, the person will be. It's interesting because on item B is the first time that we find that the spirits advising us to call bad spirits not by the disqualification, but by imperfect spirits, because by calling bad spirits, we label them and we make it difficult to change the label. By calling imperfect spirits, we say spirits that are working to improve themselves, that are still imperfect, like we all are. Less evolved spirits could be another word that we can use, but we try to refrain to use the word bad spirit in terms of the spirits that are less evolved. Okay, so again, the important concept here: the physical body is just the instrument. The spirit brings with it in a new reincarnation all the moral qualities and some intellectual abilities, part of the intellectual evolution according to the needs of that incarnation. But whatever we have in terms of moral qualities, we bring with us. Okay? Questions, comments here?
I'd like to make a comment, and I do believe that this question is crucially very important, because we tend to have an all or nothing with thinking. We tend to have what they call it polarities thinking, good or bad. That's how we look at life.
Mm-hmm.
And in 1850. They're correcting us. Don't look at it in terms of good or bad. Look at it in perfect spirits that are in progress. So I think it's very. These questions should not be just lost in the so many questions here, because I think it's extremely important.
Well, yes, I agree with you. It gives us a very. That's why I stress the part B here when we talk about imperfect spirits. Because I agree with you when we label people good or bad, and
Exactly.
and we stamp the label and don't change, right? And people
Exactly.
change. It's hard, it's difficult, we know, but people change.
People do change.
Yeah, we have to have it in mind that we get frustrated sometimes when we give second and third chances to people, and we see that there is no change, but there is always a possibility of change, and we are always evolving, like we learn in Spiritism. So the what we are today is not what we're going to be tomorrow or 1 month or 1 year from now. So the opportunity of improving is always available, and we are always improving. Some faster, some much slower, but so I agree with you, Paco. I think we should make a note, question 361, to remember. So we go back to it. Okay.
362. What is the character of individuals in whom frivolous and foolish spirits are incarnated? They are wild, impish, and sometimes extremely mischievous.
So here we still see Kardec asking the question like the physical body is inhabited by a spirit that incarnate, and then the physical body has some say in how the spirit behaves, and what the spirit's answer here is imperfect spirits are imperfect spirits. So if the individuals who are incarnated are foolish and frivolous spirits, they are going to be wild, impish, and sometimes, as they say here, extremely mischievous. So that's again, everything is in the spirit. The physical body is just what we use when we are incarnated, that restricts our ability to express ourselves in some sense, but doesn't make the spirit be what it is. The spirit brings with it the moral and intellectual qualities. Okay. Next.
363. Do spirits have any passions that do not belong to humanity? No. They would communicate them to you if they did.
That's a very interesting question, right? So Kardec is asking is there something that the spirits have in terms of passions and everything related that we don't, and we incarnates, and the spirits are very direct. No, if you had, spirits will tell you. So everything that we are, we bring from the spiritual world in terms of our imperfections, our moral qualities, and our moral shortcomings. Okay.
364. Does the same spirit give a person his or her moral and intellectual qualities? Surely it is the same, and such qualities will depend on the degree of the spirit's evolution. People do not have two spirits in them.
Okay, this is the first of some questions that the spirits will address, this point of having more than one spirit incarnated in the same physical body. The concept of Dr. Jekyll and Hyde, right? That two different personalities inhabiting the same physical body. And we know that, and we studied last week actually the process of incarnation, the union of a spirit with a new form physical body, that there is only one spirit that is associated with a physical body. There are never more than one. They are never replaced. This is not a possibility. So if we see a person that looks like two different, that has two different, completely different personalities, is still the same spirit that has, different attributes in them and have different behaviors. And of course, in modern psychology, and when we talk about multiple personalities, it's very easy for those that are new to understanding the process of reincarnation to think that multiple personality may be several spirits inhabiting one physical body, and it is never more than one spirit incarnating in a physical body. Now, we know the processes, and what we are studying on the second part with Elmo in the Minions book, process of obsession, fascination, and above all, subjugation. We may have someone behaving like two different people because of the influence that the spirits, the obsessing spirit may have on them. But still, it's only one spirit incarnated in one physical body. That it's a natural law that cannot be changed. Okay. Questions, comments here? Okay. Comfortable with the ideas.
365. Why are some very intelligent people whose intelligence is proof of the presence of an advanced spirit also extremely vicious? Because the spirit incarnated in these individuals are inadequately purified and may yield to the sway of spirits who are even more inferior. A spirit advances slowly, but this process does not take place in all directions simultaneously. It may advance intellectually at one point and morally at another.
So here we have the, the concept that we mentioned many times, the two wings of evolution, the moral and the intellectual. And the evolution is not simultaneously, and sometimes we evolve much faster on the intellectual side, which is easier because it's accumulating knowledge, like Elmo explains very well. You accumulate knowledge, so you are learning, and it's just a matter of making an effort on learning. The moral side is much more difficult because you have to eliminate imperfections, and it's always more difficult to eliminate imperfections. So we'll see some very intelligent people that are extremely vicious. We know that they are evolved intellectually, but they are not evolved morally. We have those that are studying the book Liberation with us, saw the example we mentioned and discussed last Sunday of Gregorio, the former Pope, that is one of the leaders of a region in the lower zones, very advanced intellectually because he's the responsible for a whole section of the lower zones, and you have to have intellectual abilities to be able to dominate all those spirits that he dominates. But of course, he's morally not evolved, otherwise he wouldn't find himself in the place that he is located in the lower zones. So the concept of evolution, moral and intellectual evolution, is very important to understand that it's separate, and we are going to study more here in the next questions. The challenges of the intellectually more intellectually evolved spirit that comes in a physical body that is not able to express it. Here in this question, we are talking about a spirit that is fully able to express their intellectual abilities, their intellectual evolution, or mostly what they have, but we are going to discuss those that are not later here, okay?
João.
Yes, Elmo.
I think that this question, equally with 361, is of utmost importance for us to remember and keep coming back to it. Because that's a question that comes very often. How can someone so smart do something like that? And even in being morally elevated in one aspect and still be so deficient in another aspect that is sometimes hard for us to understand. I said like Mother Teresa, definitely a saint. Well, nobody better than her on earth when she was around. But in her biography, it says that she was quite impatient with her own staff, with the people, with her herself. There was at that time even very rude with them. So even someone at the level of Mother Teresa, that you say, now this woman is perfect, has those little deficiencies, and that's why we incarnate here.
Yes, thanks, Elmo. Yeah, definitely. So Renato asked an interesting question here. I want to bring it. When you say one body per person, in the rare case of congenital twins with only one heart, body would mean mind, right? Twins means two spirits, okay? Even if they are connected to each other, sharing the same heart or any other organ, and even if they cannot be separated, it's two spirits sharing the same or parts of the same physical body. You can ask why this happens, and of course, these are extreme cases of readjustment between these two spirits. Something caused them to have to come together with sometimes with the impossibility of, sometimes with the possibility of being separated through surgery, but it's a very challenging expiation, as we can imagine. But always, two bodies are two spirits, because if there is no spirit in one of the bodies, the body, it will be stillborn, okay? So always two spirits in case of congenital twins. Okay, I don't know, Elmo, if you have any addition on the medical side or something like that, combining with it. Elmo?
Question.
Sure, go ahead, Philip.
Has there ever been what you call these combined twins where one of them has been stillborn?
I don't remember reading about it, and that's why I would ask Elmo if he knows of any case. Okay. Elmo,
Sure,
you're on
sure.
mute. Yes,
Sure.
Marisa.
Okay, I'm sorry.
What about, you already talked about this in previous studies. What about the Siamese?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
I understood that twins. Is
Yeah,
the same?
see, yeah, it's twins, Siamese twins. Yeah, the ones that are born connected through some physical organ. Could be the brain, could be the heart, could be the something else. So Elmo, have you heard of any case that one of them was stillborn? No.
Never, but then that's not my area of much reading, but I never heard of a conjoined twins and one was stillborn. I would imagine if they share essential organs, both would have to die, right? If they share one heart and the heart fails, it fails to both. So it would have to be in case of they do not share an essential organ for one to survive and the other not to survive. I never heard of anyone.
Yeah, but if it's a non-essential organ, I would imagine that it would be possible, right, to separate
Yes.
even if one is dead, right?
Yeah, and with medicine today, even with some essential organs, the miracles of new medicine can do a lot of stuff there.
Okay.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you.
366.
Okay. Go ahead.
What about the theory that persons of various intellectual and moral faculties are the product of multiple spirits, each possessing a special aptitude incarnated within him or her? A moment's reflection will show the absurdity of this theory. Each spirit is destined to possess all possible aptitudes, but it must have one individual will to progress. If a human being was a combination of different spirits, this single will would not exist, and this person would possess no individuality. Upon this person's death, all the spirits would fly off in separate directions like birds escaping from a cage. Human beings often complain that they do not understand certain concepts, yet they are experts at unnecessarily complicating them, even when they have the most simple and natural explanation close at hand. This is yet another instance of how humans often mistake the effect for the cause. This theory is quite similar to what the pagans believed of God, except in this case, it applies to humanity. They believed in the existence of a God for every phenomenon in the universe, but more rational among them see these phenomena as a variety of effects with one God as their cause. The physical and moral worlds offer us numerous points of comparison in this matter. While humankind remained focused on the appearance of natural phenomena, they believed in the existence of many different kinds of matter. Today, all these phenomena are seen as being modifications of a single elementary substance. The various faculties are manifestations of the same unique cause, which is the soul and incarnate spirit, and not multiple souls, just as the different sounds of an organ are the product of the same air and not different types of air for each sound. According to this theory, when an individual gains or loses abilities or preferences, these changes are the result of a corresponding number of spirits who enter or vacate his or her body. This would transform human beings into compound beings without any individuality and consequently without any accountability. This theory is disproved by the many spirit manifestations that conclusively demonstrate their personality and identity.
Okay. So more of the same here, right? I imagine at that time there was this idea that many people could inhabit the same physical body. Many spirits could inhabit the same physical body, and the spirits are very strong here on the answer that you know, if you stop and think about it, you see how absurd is this theory, right? It is a theory like they say here of similar to the pagans that believe of for each phenomenon of nature was a god in itself. So they adore many different gods. The comparison they do here is that you know, where would be the individuality and where would be the evolution of the spirit of the human being as a spirit if it begins being inhabited by different spirits. And again, when can the spirits enter and the spirits leave? It's so much nonsensical, this idea. It doesn't make any sense. And you know, the Kardec goes on his explanation, talking about how the knowledge in terms of matter has evolved also from many different kinds of matter to the understanding that spirit is brought that all phenomena are modifications of a single elementary substance, the universal fluid. So the different manifestations of the spirit, of faculties and manifestations of a spirit, is the spirit itself manifesting according to their own abilities, with the possibility of some spiritual influence there that they don't say it here, but we know that there is a spiritual influence, but there is no replacement or cohabiting of spirits in one physical body. It's one spirit per physical body, as we discussed here. Okay. Any questions, comments here? We're moving to a new item here. So now we go to the influence of the body in the spirit.
367. Does a spirit identify with matter upon uniting with a body? Matter is merely the envelope of the spirit, like clothing on the body. When uniting with a body, a spirit retains the attributes of its spiritual nature.
Okay, so again, the influence of matter. We know, and we talked about it and studied the perispirit, which is the spiritual body of the spirit, is actually what forms the physical body, brings what the physical body needs for the new reincarnation. So matter is already, the spiritual body is matter. So, and also it's an envelope of the spirit, like clothing on the body. The difference is that the spirit always has a perispirit with all its modifications and its evolvement. We discussed Sunday about the ovoids, the loss, the temporary loss of the form, but not of the perispirit. It's just the form of the perispirit. The physical body is a cloth that we use in an incarnation. And when we go back to the spiritual world, we leave this cloth behind, and it decomposes and goes back to nature. So the spirit retains the attributes of its spiritual nature upon reincarnating and connecting with a new physical body. Okay. Hi, Danny.
This might be coming in the subsequent questions, but for each incarnation we have different bodies, right? So different kind of bodies. So if a spirit, specific spirit comes to full health body, is going to be the same spirit or react or deal with the body if it comes with, for example, an impaired body, mentally or physically? Like, would that be changing a lot the relationship between spirit and body?
We are going to discuss a lot this in the next questions, Danny. So I think it's better when we get there, you see what is answered and what is not on the questions, okay? Okay. Let's go, Philip.
368. Does a spirit fully exercise its faculties after its union with a body? This depends on the organs that serve as their instruments. Their exercise is weakened by the rudimentary nature of matter. Is the material envelope an obstacle to the free exercise of a spirit's faculties, as an opaque glass is an obstacle to the free admission of light? Yes, it is a particularly opaque obstacle. We can also compare the action exercised upon the spirit by the rudimentary matter of its body to muddy water hampering the motion of objects swimming in it.
So here,
Very good.
Here we start studying the concepts of the restrictions that the physical body impose on the will and the acts of the spirit. So the first is, the spirit tells us that the spirit cannot fully exercise its faculties after its union with the body because it depends on the organs that serve as their instrument. Their exercise is weakened by the rudimentary nature of matter, okay? Simple example, and we are going to talk about this later. If the physical body has a hearing problem, is not able to hear, doesn't mean that the spirit is deaf. Just the physical body is, and prevents the spirit from exercising its faculties. So the example here is that then it's that Kardec asks, talks about the opaque glass as an obstacle to free emission of light, and the spirits are very strong, saying that is particularly opaque obstacle. And then Kardec comments that you can compare to a body trying to swim in a muddy water, and the difficulty of the motioning in it. So the physical body restricts the spirit to manifestate, and restricts sometimes more, sometimes less, according to the limitations of the physical body. But the fact that with a new physical body, we don't remember our life in the spiritual world, we don't remember our loved ones, our previous incarnations, and we cannot fully act on our intellectual abilities. It's all caused by this obstacle that is the physical body. Okay, we talked about when we talk about the spirit leaving the physical body in the previous chapter, we talked about the freedom that the spirit achieves when it leaves behind the physical body, according to their evolution, of course. Some spirits are too attached to the physical body to feel this freedom, but spirits that are more evolved become more free when they disconnect from the physical body. Okay. Okay. All right.
João,
Yes, Renato.
just to clarify, so if a person is born deaf, it means that there's something wrong with the perispirit, right?
Not necessarily, right?
I mean, okay, there's case by case, but let's put in a case that someone did something and, it is going to be born deaf because of a consequence, action reaction.
Okay.
So in that case, the spirit, even though we understand that this is a physical limitation, the spirit itself, it believes that cannot hear, right? So it doesn't matter if the spirit itself will not, in general terms, will not be limited by the matter. The spirit will believe that cannot hear it, even though
No,
it could, right?
No, the spirit and the physical body, once incarnated, is one and the same. Okay, the sensations. So the spirit, when interacting with other incarnated spirits or incarnated souls, cannot hear what others say because the physical body is deaf. Even if the spirit, of course, the perispirit is not, because this is an imperfection of the physical body, it limits the ability of the spirit to exercise its ability to hear. Okay, because the spirit is immersed in that physical body. For the spirit, so let's say when the spirit is sleeping and goes back to the spiritual world and has experiences in the spiritual world, it can hear there. But once it's connected and awakened, it cannot hear because it's connected to the physical body. It's not that the perispirit cannot hear, it's the physical body cannot, so it transmits nothing to the spirit. So the spirit doesn't hear. Okay? I hope I was clear here. Elmo, maybe you can help me a little bit here.
For an incarnated person to be deaf is because the physical organs of hearing does not function. If it's an incarnate person, deafness will be defined by the physical organs, not by the perispirit. Now, I think what Renato is saying is, if a perispirit is defected for whatever reason, and the part that deals with hearing, it will produce a physical instrument, a physical body that will take on the defect of the hearing part of that perispirit, and that person may be deaf because of it. But when the mom bring this kid to to a doctor, they do examination, they will detect a physical defect in that physical body that makes that person deaf.
Yeah, because I remember this is an example that João says all the time. If you're not João, if you're, spend your entire life using glass, when you go to the spiritual realm, you'll see yourself using glass because that's all you've been doing, even though you don't need the glass. So it's not a matter of a connection with the physical body anymore. It's what you believe. That's what I'm trying to point out. Even though it can, but if the mind is telling, if you're telling to yourself that you cannot, even though you're not attached to the matter, you won't be able to do it because your mind is telling you that you cannot, either hearing or seeing or whatever. So it's not a limitation of the physical anymore. It's kind of went over to the spiritual or.
You see, the difference here is huge. You're talking about two completely different things. When you discarnate and you go back to the spiritual plane, we have completely understand of our identity during this incarnation. If this incarnation, I require glasses, when I go back to the spiritual plane, I identify myself as a person who requires glasses to see well. When I reincarnate and I'm going to be taking another physical body, I'll go through a process of reductionism. I'll go through a process that I will basically forget, right? To develop forgetfulness, the expression used in spirituals, that in my previous incarnation I was deaf, or I was missing a leg or a rib. Oh, that's going to be forgotten. I'm not going to bring that memory with me.
Got it.
And that's
sorry, go ahead.
And that's why that period of reductionism that the perispirit goes through to take another body is so important. That veil of forgetfulness is so important. So you can start fresh, or a clean canvas to create another story of yourself and not repeat the same story over and over again.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Later in this chapter, we're going to study the effect of mentally challenged spirits, incarnated people, when they go back to the spiritual world. And you may be able to relate some of what you asked when we discuss it, Renato, because you carry back to the spiritual world some of what you may carry back to the spiritual world, what you have experienced during your life, and may take a while for you to readjust back to the spiritual world, which is the example of the eyeglasses, right? If you used your whole life, you're going to look for them when you're back in the spiritual world, and it may take some time for you to readapt yourself that you don't need to use it. And it's the same thing with the hearing abilities, as we understand.
Thank you.
369. Is the free exercise of a spirit's faculties secondary to the development of its physical organs during incarnation? Those organs serve as the soul's channels for manifesting its faculties. By default, this manifestation is secondary to the degree of development and perfection of those organs, as the perfection of manual work depends on the quality of the tool used.
So here, what they're saying is that Kardec is asking if the ability of the spirit to express itself is secondary to the development of the physical organs, the organs that the physical body has. And this answers from the spirits is that the organs serve as the ability of the soul to manifest its faculties, and it's limited by the degree of of development and perfection of these organs, right? So, you know, if you don't have the ability to express yourself because of your brain is not well developed to manifest the intelligence of the spirit, you are going to be limited by the restrictions of the physical body that the physical body will impose on the spirit. That's what this question meant here. You know, it's kind of sometimes difficult to understand here what exactly what Kardec and the spirits are talking. But it's, you know, it's the idea is that the spirit can only manifest itself up to the abilities of the physical bodies, physical organs that are exist in the physical body, and the perfection or imperfection of these physical organs.
May I make a
Paco.
comment? Yeah,
Sure,
I like to. I like to make the comment that this statement seems to me that it's like a general statement. It makes very much sense, but I am sure that there are cases in which the physical organs themselves may be kind of either damaged or not function properly, but there's some there must be something in the perispirit or in the will of the soul to kind of overcome that limitation and manifest itself properly.
You can only manifest yourself if your physical body allows you to, right? There is no way of overcome. Let's say if your physical brain is damaged in a way that it prevents you from manifesting yourself, you are limited, right?
Well, okay, I'm going to personalize it. Okay, I was born with astigmatism, so apparently my eyeball is like, I don't know if it's oval or like a round. So I was taken to the doctor when I was in the 8th grade, and my doctor told my mother, "Listen, your child, he cannot see. You know, he's got severe astigmatism. So your child must be failing in school." And it was just the contrary. I was able to even write without actually seeing properly. Now, how do I explain that? I don't know. That's why I'm coming up with this. Because there might be, there's also a movie of someone who had a psychological something, and he was able to go beyond those limitations.
Yeah, you can think of Steve Hawkins, right? With all the limitations he had.
Exactly. Yeah, probably, there are cases in which even the will or the support of the spiritual world, that people are able to move beyond those limitations.
No,
even
I agree
if they are diagnosed, we know with a condition.
I agree with
by
you.
The way, it was corrected now, by the way, in my 6th, just now, about a few years ago, the astigmatism was corrected. But do you understand this is where I'm coming from? This is what I'm trying to say.
No, and we know of, it's very common that when someone has lost one of these 5 senses, that the other 4 develops more, right? Someone that cannot see has the ability to feel things better by touch or hear or compensation. The compensation. So yes, the spirit develops other abilities. We go around the abilities, but someone that cannot see, it cannot see. There is no way the spirit can make it see if the physical body doesn't work. You can, of course, you can overcome through different means and different abilities, but you are you have these challenges, right? You have these issues that prevent you from fully exercising your intellectual abilities through the limitations of one or another physical organ, right?
No, I'm saying that as a general principle, this is very, it's sound. It's definitely is very sound as a principle, you know, but
Yeah,
in my
we
case,
can always.
I had severe astigmatism. My eyeglasses at one point, they were thick like the Coca-Cola bottles, you know. So I don't know. Just wanted to
Yeah.
bring that up.
No, you're right. The ability of the spirit to overcome the challenges is always it's immense, right? And spirits overcome the challenges. But what we're talking here is that, but in general sense, the
In
physical
general, yes,
body,
I agree. I would agree with that. Yeah, I
yeah,
definitely
the
would agree
physical
with that.
body restricts the ability of the spirit to fully manifest itself.
Yeah.
Okay.
370.
Okay.
Can we draw a correlation between the development of the cerebral organs and the moral and intellectual faculties from the influence of the physical organs?
Wow, that's a good one.
Do not mistake cause and effect. A spirit always possesses faculties that belong to it, but the organs do not provide the faculties. The faculties spur the development of the organs. According to this view, the diversity of each person's abilities depends solely on the state of the spirit. Is this correct? Solely is not accurate. The qualities of an incarnate spirit determine those abilities. However, an allowance must be made for the influence of matter, which to some degree hampers everyone when they exercise their intrinsic spiritual faculties. When it incarnates, a spirit already has certain characteristics, predispositions. If we contend the existence of a special organ in the brain for each of these, the development of the cerebral organs is an effect and not a cause. If each of these faculties were a result of physical organs, humans would be mere machines with no free will and no responsibility for their actions. If such were the case, we would be forced to admit that the greatest geniuses, thinkers, poets, and artists were merely lucky to be given these certain special organs. Had it not been for chance, they would not have been geniuses, and the most ignorant individuals might have been a Newton, Virgil, or Raphael, as long as they had received certain organs. This theory is even more absurd if we apply it to the explanation of moral qualities. According to this system, if St. Vincent de Paul had been gifted by nature with a different specific organ, he could have been a crook, and the greatest crook would only lack a certain brain structure in order to be someone like St. Vincent de Paul. On the other hand, when we accept that our special organs, assuming their existence, are in effect developed by the experience of the corresponding faculties rather than a cause, as in the development of muscles by movement, we can formulate a more rationally sounding theory. Let us make a trivial comparison, albeit a truthful one. When we say that a person is addicted to alcohol based on facial signs, do the signs make them an alcoholic, or does drunkenness create the signs? We can assert that our organs receive the impression of our faculties.
Definitely.
Okay. So here, that's that long question. What the spirits are trying to tell us again is that the spirit possesses the faculties that belong to it. The organs, meaning the brain, sorry, does not provide the faculties. The faculties spur the development of the organs. Okay, now we have to remember that this is 1857, that there is no studies of the brain as we have today, that we have the brain divided and all the where it manifests, the abilities manifest in the brain. They are talking about the development of the brain as a whole. And of course, the spirits that were telling us, they knew more than they were able to tell, but they were not going to do our work for us. So they would go to the explanations according to the knowledge of that time. So they are telling us here that the abilities that the spirit manifest depends on the qualities and perfections and imperfections of the spirit, not solely, as the spirit says here, because the physical matter can hamper the faculties. Let's say a music genius cannot bring the geniality to the physical body, doesn't bring it to the new incarnation. So the physical body hampers the ability to this musician to fully express their geniality. But it is always the spirit manifesting through the physical body. And that's where we get the notions of the gentle giant, you know, those big guys that are very gentle, and those small guys that are very angry and very mean, because it's not the physical body, it's the spirit that manifests in it, right? So Kardec then goes into the explanation that you know, if it was the physical body that caused the manifestation of the spirit, then you could exchange, you know, a crook become a genius if the body changes, and a genius becoming a crook if any alteration of the physical body. And we know that these qualities are in the spirit, so the physical body only provides a vehicle for manifestation of it, and this vehicle may not be able to fully manifest it. The example they give, and this is for next week, and I thought the question from Daniela was going to be able to answer this week, but it's for next week, but we're going to talk a little bit then for not to leave for next week. But an example they give on next week's topic is a great musician with a bad instrument won't be able to play to their full abilities. You know, if you give a child's piano to a very qualified pianist, they're not going to play a symphony in that child's piano, right? It's not that the pianist is not a fully fledged music master. It's the instrument that doesn't allow it to manifest. So that's the example that compares very well the restrictions of the physical body can impose in the expression of the spirit. Okay. So Danny, your question, let's answer your question, because I don't want to leave for next week. We're going to get back there, but your question is the mentally challenged spirit, right? So how is, can you repeat the question so I can remember exactly what you wanted to know?
My question was the spirit having several abilities, and it comes to a body that has some kind of impediment. It could be just physical or in the brain.
Yeah.
That's going to give that spirit a very different kind of experience, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So I think it was more related to that first question, that
Yeah, the spirit identify with matter upon uniting with the body.
I think it was the first one. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like the body is the integration to the body is different, right? So like
Yeah.
how the body is going to accommodate that spirit as well, because it could be a spirit, for example, that if the body has not the ability to walk, and that spirit is very active, is very pushing forward, like wants to do things, that's going to be probably a person who might be even in a wheelchair doing sports, working, driving by herself or himself, you know what I mean? So
yes.
the spirit will manifest still how
Yeah.
the spirit is.
Yeah, it's a little bit what Paco asked, right? So said, the spirit will try to manifest as best as possible with the restrictions of the physical body. But if the physical body, and we're going to discuss next week, you see here mental impairment and insanity, right? If the spirit is mentally impaired or it has insanity, right? The physical body, the spirit has an inability to manifest itself, and it will be limited by these restrictions of the physical body, and depending on the severity of the limitation, the spirit may be completely unable to manifest itself, right? We see extreme cases. This is an atonement for the spirit, or it is a way of helping those around the spirit. Again, not necessarily all the cases is an expiation. Sometimes the spirit may choose to come in that form to challenge those that are going to take care of him or her, to help them grow in terms of loving and caring for each other and for other spirits. But again, the spirit can only manifest up to their ability to fully exercise the physical body, what the physical body has to offer. Okay. But you're right, the spirit will try to make the best use possible of the physical body. We'll try to fully use it, but the restrictions will be there to prevent. You can, going back to Steve Hawkins, right? The physical body was completely impaired. He couldn't do anything. He couldn't talk, he couldn't write, he couldn't do, and he found a way to live a very impressive work, even with all the limitations he had, right? Developing ways of communicating and using the technology to communicate. So there you have the physical body that is almost unable to manifest itself, and the spirit, through the willing of manifesting itself, able to do much work as it had done, right?
So
Elmo, I don't know if yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think this question is a very good, very important question. The spirit will express its personality. It will express its toughness or weakness, its niceness or nastiness, regardless of the physical body. It will attempt to express its attributes to the best of its ability. So let's say Stephen Hawking, after he became with that very deformed body, was still able to express his genius mind for physics. But let's assume that his brilliant mind was for music. Let's say they had tremendous dexterity for piano playing. He could not play the piano. That's out of mind. But being him such a fighter, someone who wants to conquer something, he would perhaps write music. He would still express his musicality in a different way, because he is a tough guy. He is someone who really will overcome all challenge and get something done. So that is really his characteristic, his personality, is a fighter who will express his abilities one way or another. If he could not play the piano, perhaps he would write music for others to play his music. But he would express his talent one way or another. Now, there are others who will accommodate and not try to progress and would probably not do as much as he could have done in that reincarnation, even with a not, so to say, perfected body. But I think that's a very, very important question. In relationship with the question from Renato, they are quite similar, and they are both very important.
Yeah, we are going to come back to this next week. You can see that next week, so we're going to study mental impairment and insanity, and we are going to come back to this discussion and address, because it's important for us to revisit and understand the process when the physical body is impaired. What happens to the spirit? Can it fully manifest? It cannot fully manifest. What happens? Specifically later, we are going to see when it comes back to the spiritual world, what happens to the spirit. You know, if the spirit spent a whole physical life mentally impaired, when it goes back to the spiritual world, discarnates, is it still mentally impaired or not? And we're going to discuss this next week. Okay. So we're going to stop here, the first part. Just a note here, this Saturday's lecture on the United States Spiritist Federation was changed because the person who was going to give the lecture got sick. So the lecture will be Action and Reaction by Karen Dietrich. She's from Belgium, and she's going to talk how our free will closely connected to the law of cause and effect, and what it means for our pathway as immortal spirits. Thus, each of our actions automatically entail a certain reaction. So we're going to study with her action and reaction from the Spiritist point of view. Okay, so this Saturday at 11 a.m. We are back to the weekly lectures, right? This Sunday, we are going to study the Gospel according to Spiritism. It's the second Sunday of the month. So at 11 a.m., we're studying the Gospel, okay? Zoraida, you do our final prayer? Oh, sorry. Book Club, Chapter 3 of Part 2, Daniela, thanks. On Wednesday at 7 p.m., we're studying the book Renunciation by Emmanuel and Francisco Cândido Xavier. Okay.
Okay.
Zoraida,
Yes.
thanks.
Yeah. To all spiritual benefactors, our guardian angels, who have come here in participation in guiding us with this beautiful studies of returning to the physical life. So important for each and one of us to understand what is entailed. We are grateful for it, and we thank them. We ask that as we continue throughout the week, may we continue to study, to find ourselves in a way of understanding life here in the physical world and in the spirit world. Grateful to continue our studies for the beginning of this year. May we be able to take as much as we can for our development, guiding and helping us as always. We are grateful, dear Lord. And we ask for this year for all those that are still going through hardships and suffering. We pray, dear Lord, that they be guided and assisted throughout this year, giving them the strength and courage to move forward. We thank you, dear Lord, and with that in mind, we ask permission to close this part of our meeting today. So be it.